News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. Here's your closing bell for this Tuesday on Wall Street, where the dollar continued to slide as President Trump pushed to remove Fed Governor Lisa Cook, fueling more concerns about central bank independence and inflation risks. We do bring you the closing numbers each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 gained 27 points, NASDAQ up 95 points, the Dow up 136 points, the 10-year Treasury yield at 4.25%, the 2-year yield at 3.68%, the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index down 0.2%. Now, President Trump said he was prepared for a legal fight with Fed Governor Cook after he moved to oust her from her post after allegations that she falsified mortgage documents. Cook's lawyer vowed to file a lawsuit. Cook said Trump did not have the authority to fire her and she wasn't going to resign. Now, the Fed has released a statement saying that removal protections are in place for governors to serve as a safeguard, ensuring that monetary policy decisions are based on data, economic analysis, and the long-term interests of the American people, adding that the Fed will abide by any court decision made regarding Cook's position on the board. Trump says once they replace Cook, the makeup on the board will swing in his favor.
We'll have a majority very shortly, so that'll be great. Once we have a majority, housing is going to swing and it's going to be great. People are paying too high an interest rate. That's the only problem with housing. We have to get the rates down a little bit.
Trump's effort to fire Cook sets up a legal challenge that could have major impacts on monetary policy. He says he has some good people in mind for Cook's chair and floated the possibility that he'll shift Council of Economic Advisors Chairman Stephen Myron, whom he nominated to fill a vacant board seat with a term that expires in January, to the seat that is held by Cook with a term that runs until 2038. A president has never before removed a Fed governor from office. Former Fed Vice Chair Lael Brainerd tells Bloomberg Surveillance this can have an impact on other board members.
There is nobody in the Federal Open Markets Committee, the Monetary Policy Setting Committee, that can't be thinking, well, what does this mean for me?
You can watch the full conversation with former Fed Vice Chair Lael Brainerd on YouTube on the Bloomberg Podcasts channel. Former White House economic advisor Jared Bernstein.
This is nothing more nor less than a banana republic-style power grab of the central bank trying to diminish its independence and for the president to get interest rates down where he wants them. The living standards of average folks would be facing much higher inflation and much higher interest rates.
Hear more from former White House economic advisor Jared Bernstein on the Balance of Power podcast. Former New York Fed President Bill Dudley says this is damaging to Fed independence.
This is a real assault on the Federal Reserve's independence. And as we know, central bank's independence is really important for good economic outcomes.
Dudley spoke on Bloomberg Surveillance. Americans' view of the U.S. economy declined in August, with anxiety over jobs rising for the 8th consecutive month. The Conference Board's gauge of sentiment decreased to 97.4 from an upward revision a month earlier. Senior economist Stephanie Gouchard at the Conference Board says there are a couple of interesting trends.
One of them is consumers' views about the current situation on the labor market has been deteriorating. Overall, it's telling us that consumers are thinking that jobs are getting harder to get, that there are fewer jobs available. The other thing that's interesting, if we look at inflation expectations, we saw a slight rebound, which is also associated with persisting concerns about the tariffs and the impact of tariffs on prices.
Senior economist Stephanie Gouchard at the Conference Board on Bloomberg Intelligence. The Justice Department is digging into UnitedHealth Group's prescription management services and how it reimburses its own doctors under an ongoing probe into the firm's operations. Sources tell Bloomberg investigators are looking into business practices at the company's pharmacy benefit manager, OptumRx, in addition to the physician payments. UnitedHealth Group shares fell 1.5% in the regular session. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has suggested the government is looking at the defense sector for potential stakes in companies, singling out Lockheed Martin, calling it, quote, basically an arm of the U.S. government. You may recall the government obtained a 10% share in chipmaker Intel in a deal that was finalized last week. Shares of Lockheed gained about 2% in regular trading. EchoStar has agreed to sell spectrum licenses to AT&T for about $23 billion in an all-cash transaction. The deal is expected to close by mid-2026, pending approval. AT&T shares slipped about 0.5%, and EchoStar advanced 70% in the regular session. Eli Lilly's experimental obesity pill helped patients lose 9.6% of their body weight in a trial. The company says it's on track to file for regulatory approval by the end of the year. Shares of Eli Lilly closed the highest in nearly 19 weeks, rising about 6% in regular trading. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelsey are engaged. It is a 5-photo joint post on Instagram where the superstar singer and football player revealed their engagement, the fairy tale culmination of a courtship that for 2 years has thrilled and fascinated millions around the world, especially the Swifties. No word on when or where that wedding will be. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg.